We are the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association.
We are the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association.
Business in Pennsylvania.
And business in Pennsylvania is our business.
And this is bonus coverage of Ask the Governor.
Is this the bonus round?
This is the bonus round. It's the lightning round. The questions will come. You have 30 seconds. No, I'm kidding. Bonus coverage just for PAMatters.com. So hello to all our web viewers. We wrapped up the main part of the show with emails. I want to get into a couple more emails we didn't get to. The next one is Paul, who writes in from Pittsburgh. Would you say that the Pennsylvania Senate and Congress have been a hindrance to getting your agenda done? Things such as state store privatization and right to work, these things should have been fairly easy since your party controls both houses. So are those your roadblocks? Boy, is that a loaded question from Paul in Pittsburgh.
But it's not an uncommon question. And what I would tell everybody, this is a democracy. And in Pennsylvania, I'm not going to talk about Congress. That's a whole separate subject. But in Pennsylvania, yes, the Republicans control the House by about 12 votes, and they control the Senate by 1 vote. But, you know, you have a spectrum within the caucus. They're not all of one mind on everything, nor probably should they be. And the same thing, the Democrats are not all of one mind on one thing, on everything. And to demonstrate that to you, we were able to get the unemployment compensation bill done with a bipartisan support, not all Republicans, not all Democrats, but a coalition of the two or a group of the two. Same thing with the transportation bill, same thing with the manufacturer's resource tax credit. And I'd rather be able to get more done that way. But sometimes we get into these, it's a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. We're not going to talk about that. We're trying to get people, what can we agree upon? And I can tell you that all the Republicans don't necessarily agree on certain issues. And, they're an independent branch, third co-equal branch of government to deal with.
After this year, I'm going to digress a little bit off that email. After this year, there's big changes coming to the leadership in the state House because Sam Smith says he's done. He's retiring after this year. Did that announcement come as a surprise to you?
Yes. Not a great surprise. But he had not given any indication to me. He did call me ahead of the public announcement and let me know, and I talked to him about it. But clearly his belief was that he had been here and was tired, and he's been coming here, I think, 28 years. Yeah. Running every 2 years for 28 years is a lot of work. And he felt that he no longer had his heart in it, and somebody should be coming in that really is going to put their full heart into it. I don't think, there are some people out there saying, oh, he almost lost last time and he thought he knew he was going to lose this time. That's not the case. In fact, frankly, as you know, Sam led on the transportation issue for us in the House. I think his reelection was assured. He was going to get reelected.
Yeah, a lot of longtime lawmakers calling it quits after this year. There'll be a lot of new faces.
Even in Congress, you see Congressman Dingell, who was elected in 1955. Yeah. Depending on when in 55. If he was elected in November of 55, I was 6 years old living in Pittsburgh. That's a long time in one job.
We're going to go back to the email. Anthony from Wexford writes in, Governor, the performance of your people this past weekend, and he wrote in after one of the many winter storms, in clearing snow off major highways was dismal at best. And in fact, he put down grade F. Please privatize your fleet, he says, for the PennDOT trucks.
Well, first off, the issue of maintaining our roads is clearly a public safety issue. And I will tell you, PennDOT has been working extreme number of hours of overtime. This has been a horrendous winter for everybody. Anthony, I'm going to ask you, have patience. One of the things that I learned when we have these snowstorms, PennDOT has routes that they do, and every route is about 2 hours from start to finish, and then they go back out there and do it again. And in some of the snowstorms, and Anthony doesn't say when this was or what road this was, some of the snowstorms, the snow was, as soon as we passed through, it was coming down at 1 inch an hour, and it's going to get back up there. I think, if this was an issue of black ice, we see black ice on a regular basis. And I think the driving public has to be careful when they're out there, especially if there's been a freeze and a thaw and a freeze overnight. That the road may look clear, but it's not clear. But I can tell you, our men and women are out there on a regular basis because our salt supplies are getting very, very low across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
In fact, as we speak, are there not trucks going back and forth from Delaware right now bringing in additional salt for the southeast and central?
Absolutely. I mean, we've used so much here in central and southeastern Pennsylvania and in western Pennsylvania, but the salt supplies here are dangerously low. When I walked into the studios, it was flurrying out there. March is coming on us. I remember we get some of our worst snowstorms in March. And based upon this year, I wouldn't be surprised if we had some now.
Never forget the blizzard of '93, that's for sure.
That's exactly right.
One other thing Anthony should probably know is that it's not just PennDOT out there. The townships, the counties have their own trucks, and some of them use private contractors to do that.
Right.
So
that's exactly
there's
right.
sort of a mix depending on what road you're driving on. It could be private contractors.
I know Wexford pretty well. He could be going from a township road to a county road to a state road in the course of a mile.
Yeah. Last email comes from Keith in Manchester, and it's been a few months since we brought this up, so I let Keith's email come through. Why have you not addressed the issue of property tax reform? It's a real burden for many seniors. Like I said, that's an issue that's probably one of the most popular issues we see coming in on PAMatters.com.
And there are bills in the House and the Senate to deal with it, but as I've said previously, we have to see that it's going to generate sufficient revenue. Kind of has to be what we call revenue neutral. And so far, we haven't seen any of those in the bills. And that's why earlier in the show, when we were on the radio, I brought up the fact that pension reform, particularly with the education side of the House, will allow the various school districts not to increase their taxes if they get some pension reform as quickly.
All right. None of the issues that I wanted to ask you about, but we didn't have time in the show.
Oh, is this fun time?
This will be the lightning round.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if it's fun because the first one's not really good news. The Small Games of Chance bill, which passed and set up for these games to start showing up in bars and taverns as early as this spring. Well, apparently the response to the application process has been dismal. Some say that the process itself is the problem. What are you hearing about this?
Well, what I'm hearing is that, keep in mind, this was a legislative initiative to go to the Small Games of Chance. And in the legislation, I don't believe, and I haven't looked at it, that it put out there the rules and regulations of whether you have to be fingerprinted or not fingerprinted. Mm-hmm. They just gave it to the responsibility to the Gaming Commission, which handles all the casinos and the racetrack racinos. And they have put on barriers, fingerprinting, which is fingerprinting is probably not a bad idea. But there's certainly some concern and some cost level to getting the licenses to do this that I don't think was discussed or anticipated in the legislature. So I think the legislature is going to either have to take a look at this or the Gaming Commission is going to have to take a look at this because I don't think that the oversight was supposed to be quite to the level that you would expect at a casino at every tavern and bar in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
And the reason this is a big issue for you to be concerned with is about $100 million were counting on in your budget proposal would come from that Small Games.
Well, it's not just me, it's the legislature too, because it's part of the budget.
Right. The astronomical increases in some residential electric bills have apparently caught the eye of the Public Utility Commission. Talking about bills for normal-sized households going from a couple $100 maybe up to over $1,000. And they're now looking into this. Are you following those developments?
Yeah,
this gets back to that variable rate thing
That's
we were
exactly.
talking about.
I kind of teased you
a little
with
bit.
that before. But the PUC and Chairman Powelson are taking a look at that, seeing what's happening with these companies. And I believe in every instance where you see that spike, it's a variable rate that the people had purchased the variable rate plan, hoping that they wouldn't have a very, very cold winter. Well, we got a very, very cold winter, and you saw the prices go up. That's why what I say is when people are looking at choice in their producer of the gas, or gas, not gas, but electricity, they should take a look at the plan and are you willing to risk on a variable plan, just like you do with mortgages, and those are good, but you do have the possibility of seeing the adjustment going up rather than the adjustment going down.
and read that fine print because it's all
read
there.
The fine print. That's
absolutely. Right. You're just back from the National Governors Association meeting in Washington. I read an article in U.S. News describing the GOP governors gathering with the president, and they used the word chilly as a way to describe the atmosphere of that meeting. And they led their story with the following. This is a quote from U.S. News. President Barack Obama rejected requests from Republican governors for increased flexibility on a variety of issues Monday, signaling a more confrontational approach with state leaders as election season approaches. Now, my question to you is that a harbinger for your request to the federal government for some flexibility in your plan for Medicaid dollars?
I certainly believe, hope that it's not. I think what we saw with the president and what you see beyond the meetings that we had with the president, you see the president getting ready to not have flexibility with Congress and actually maybe tramping on Congress's role by issuing executive orders when Congress should be involved. And one of the stories that are out there is how he's using the executive position much more than he even said he was going to do. So, that's kind of interesting. We'd like to see the national debate focus on that a little bit because Congress does have a role. And as you know, if this president does it, who's the next president? What happens if the next president's a Republican? He decides or she decides to go that role. So it's not exactly a smart way, in my opinion, to go. And when it comes to the flexibility, we've been asking, and it's not just us for flexibility. The Democrats have been asking for flexibility in a number of different programs, particularly with the money that comes in for the social services, for Medicaid and so forth. I believe when it comes to what they call expansion of Medicaid, what we're calling Healthy PA, if we get this, that we will get pretty much what we've asked for because we have been negotiating ahead of time, unless the president were to come down and tell them, no, don't give them anything. Well, then if they don't give anything, then there's not going to be the receipt of those monies in Pennsylvania. We would hope that we would have something from Health and Human Services and Secretary Sebelius, and I had a 5-minute conversation with her at the White House when we were there within the next few months, not as some of my Democrats out there in the House and Senate say, oh, it's going to take them a year to get to this. We've been negotiating this for many, many months, so I think it's going to come quickly.
So aside from all of that, how did the NGA meeting go? Did you have a good time down there?
Well, if
there's a lot of work going on too.
Remember how nice this weekend was?
Oh yeah,
we were inside the entire time. Okay, so it's not what you do is the Democratic Governors Association, the Republican Governors Association. We started having meetings, then we go in and have our National Governors Association meetings. One of the most interesting events that we had there was Jeff Imwalt, the CEO of General Electric, coming in and talking to us. In fact, I told my people, get the video of that. I want to look at that one over and over again because there's some insights that he had, particularly maybe towards getting more jobs here in Pennsylvania, talking to GE, hey, get more jobs here in Pennsylvania. But then you have the evening at the White House that happens every Sunday night of that. And my wife did not go with me. Last year, she had my daughter go with me. This year, our son went with us. Good. So you have a nice dinner at the White House, and it's kind of neutral ground. Everybody is nice with each other. And every year, there's a small concert, maybe 4 or 5 songs by somebody putting on. The first year, it was Martha Reeves.
Oh, nice.
No, not Martha Reeves. Maybe it was Martha Reeves. I forget right now. Yeah. The Gladys Knight. I'm sorry. Gladys Knight. Yeah. Gladys Knight and the New Pips. And some new singers this year. And then the following day, we go back over. The governors go in and meet with the president, and the first spouses have a meeting with the First Lady and Dr. Biden, Vice President Biden's wife. And Vice President Biden is with the president when we meet.
Last question, and then I know I got to get you out of here for your next scheduled appearance in Lancaster. But did you bump into Governor Christie while you were down there? And if you did, how are his spirits?
No, I didn't bump into him.
Did you get a chance to talk to him?
Sure.
Yeah. How's he doing with
well.
everything?
He's doing well. He was getting ready to deliver his budget address. And reading the paper yesterday, or last night, he's delivered it. I notice his budget's higher than ours, but I think they might include transportation in their budget, where ours is transportation is a separate item. And But he's in good spirits. He's the chair of the Republican Governors Association, and he's working through this. But he has his focus on the people of New Jersey and on the Republican governors.
All right, Governor. Thanks for sitting in and giving us some bonus material for the website.
You're welcome.
All
Thanks.
right.